The desert winds howled across the barren expanse, carrying with them the whispers of an ancient world long buried beneath the sands. The sun blazed mercilessly overhead, its rays reflecting off the golden dunes that stretched endlessly in every direction. It was here, in this desolate wasteland, that a lone figure trudged forward, his boots sinking into the soft sand with every step. His name was Ethan Drake, an archaeologist with a reputation for uncovering the impossible. He had spent years studying the legends of the Forgotten Queen, a mythical ruler said to have descended from the stars. Her tomb, rumored to be hidden somewhere in this desert, was the stuff of legends, a place of untold riches and unimaginable dangers. Most dismissed it as a fairy tale, but Ethan had always believed there was truth in every myth. After months of research and preparation, Ethan had finally pinpointed the location of the tomb. The ancient texts spoke of a hidden entrance guarded by a series of traps, designed to keep out the unworthy. As he approached the coordinates, he noticed a peculiar formation in the sand, a circle of stones, weathered by time but unmistakably man-made. Ethan knelt beside the stones, brushing away the sand to reveal intricate carvings etched into their surface. They depicted a queen, her features regal and otherworldly, surrounded by symbols that seemed to pulse with an eerie energy. He traced the carvings with his fingers, feeling a strange warmth emanating from the stone. "This is it," he whispered to himself, his heart pounding with excitement. The entrance to the tomb. Using a small brush, Ethan cleared away more sand, revealing a hidden mechanism beneath the stones. It was a circular dial, adorned with the same symbols as the carvings. He studied the symbols carefully, recalling the ancient texts he had memorized. With a deep breath, he began to turn the dial, aligning the symbols in the correct sequence. As the final symbol clicked into place, the ground beneath him began to tremble. The stones shifted, revealing a dark staircase leading down into the depths of the earth. Ethan hesitated for a moment, the weight of what he was about to do settling on his shoulders. But his curiosity and determination pushed him forward. He descended the staircase, the air growing cooler with each step. The walls were lined with more carvings, telling the story of the Forgotten Queen and her reign. She was depicted as a benevolent ruler, beloved by her people, but also as a powerful warrior, defending her kingdom from invaders. The carvings grew more elaborate as he went deeper, culminating in a massive door at the bottom of the staircase. The door was made of a strange metal, unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. It was covered in more symbols, glowing faintly in the dim light. He reached out to touch the door, and as his fingers made contact, the symbols flared to life, illuminating the chamber in a soft, blue light. The door began to open, revealing a vast chamber beyond. Ethan stepped inside, his breath catching in his throat. The chamber was filled with treasures beyond his wildest dreams, golden statues, jeweled artifacts, and ancient scrolls. But what caught his attention was the massive sarcophagus at the center of the room. It was made of the same strange metal as the door, adorned with intricate carvings of the queen. The lid was sealed with a series of locks, each one more complex than the last. Ethan approached the sarcophagus, his heart racing with anticipation. As he examined the locks, he noticed a small inscription on the side of the sarcophagus. It was written in an ancient language, but Ethan recognized it from his studies. It read, "Only the worthy may awaken the queen." Ethan took a deep breath, his mind racing. He had come this far, and there was no turning back now. He began to work on the locks, using his knowledge of ancient mechanisms to unlock each one. As the final lock clicked open, the lid of the sarcophagus began to shift. The chamber was filled with a blinding light as the lid was lifted, revealing the queen inside. She was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, with a faint, ethereal glow. Her hair was long and silver, cascading down her shoulders like a waterfall of moonlight. She was dressed in a robe of shimmering fabric, adorned with jewels that sparkled like stars. But what struck Ethan the most was her eyes. They were closed, but he could feel a powerful presence emanating from her, as if she were watching him even in her slumber. As he stood there, transfixed, the queen's eyes slowly opened, revealing orbs of pure, radiant light. She sat up, her movements graceful and deliberate, and turned to face Ethan. "Who dares awaken me?" she asked, her voice echoing through the chamber like a melody from another world. Ethan swallowed hard, his voice trembling as he replied, "My name is Ethan Drake. I am an archaeologist, and I have come to uncover the secrets of your tomb." The queen studied him for a moment, her gaze piercing through him. "You are brave to come here, Ethan Drake. But bravery alone is not enough to awaken me. Tell me, why have you sought me out?" Ethan hesitated, unsure of how to answer. I have spent my life studying the legends of your reign. I believe there is much we can learn from you, from your knowledge and your wisdom." The queen's expression softened, and she nodded. "You seek knowledge. That is a noble pursuit. But know this, Ethan Drake, the path you have chosen is fraught with danger. The secrets of my kingdom are not meant for the faint of heart." Ethan nodded, his determination unwavering. "I understand. But I am willing to face whatever challenges lie ahead." The queen smiled, a hint of approval in her eyes. "Very well. If you prove yourself worthy, I may share my knowledge with you. But first, you must pass a test." Before Ethan could respond, the chamber began to shake, the walls shifting and changing. The treasures around him disappeared, replaced by a labyrinth of twisting corridors and hidden traps. "The test begins now," the queen said, her voice echoing through the labyrinth. "Find your way to me, and you shall have your answers." Ethan took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenge ahead. He had come this far, and he was not about to turn back now. With a determined look in his eyes, he stepped into the labyrinth, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The labyrinth was a maze of twisting corridors, each one more confusing than the last. The walls were made of the same strange metal as the sarcophagus, glowing faintly in the dim light. Ethan moved cautiously, his senses on high alert. He knew that the queen's test would not be easy, and he was prepared for anything. As he walked, he noticed that the walls were covered in more carvings, depicting scenes from the queen's reign. They showed her leading her people in battle, ruling with wisdom and compassion, and ultimately, descending into the tomb to await the day when she would be awakened. Ethan studied the carvings carefully, hoping they would provide some clue to navigating the labyrinth. But the labyrinth was not just a physical challenge, it was a mental one as well. As Ethan turned a corner, he found himself face to face with a mirror. His reflection stared back at him, but something was off. The reflection's eyes were cold and calculating, a stark contrast to Ethan's own determined gaze. "Who are you?" the reflection asked, its voice dripping with malice. Ethan frowned, unsure of how to respond. "I am Ethan Drake," he said cautiously. The reflection smirked. "Are you sure? Or are you just a shadow of the man you once were?" Ethan's heart raced as the reflection stepped out of the mirror, becoming a solid, tangible being. It was him, but darker, more sinister. The doppelganger lunged at him, and Ethan barely had time to react. He dodged to the side, narrowly avoiding the attack. The two Ethans circled each other, each one waiting for the other to make a move. The doppelganger was faster, stronger, and more ruthless, but Ethan had something it didn't, his determination and will to survive. "You can't win," the doppelganger sneered. "I am everything you fear, everything you hate about yourself." Ethan shook his head, refusing to be intimidated. "You may be a part of me, but you're not all of me. I am more than my fears and doubts." With a burst of energy, Ethan charged at the doppelganger, tackling it to the ground. The two struggled, each one fighting for dominance. But Ethan's determination gave him the edge, and he managed to overpower his darker self. As the doppelganger dissolved into nothingness, Ethan felt a sense of relief wash over him. He had faced his inner demons and come out stronger for it. But he knew that this was only the beginning of the Queen's test. The labyrinth continued to shift and change, leading Ethan through a series of increasingly difficult challenges. He encountered traps that tested his agility, puzzles that challenged his intellect, and illusions that played on his deepest fears. But with each challenge, he grew more confident in his abilities. Finally, after what felt like hours, Ethan reached the center of the labyrinth. The Queen was waiting for him, her expression unreadable. "You have done well, Ethan Drake," she said. "You have faced your fears and overcome the trials I set before you. But there is one final test you must pass." Ethan nodded, ready for whatever came next. "What is it?" The Queen gestured to a large, ornate door behind her. "Beyond this door lies the heart of my kingdom. It is a place of great power, but also great danger. If you wish to prove yourself worthy, you must enter and retrieve the Star of Ether, a relic of immense power." Ethan's eyes widened. The Star of Ether was a legendary artifact, said to hold the power of the stars themselves. It was the key to unlocking the Queen's knowledge and wisdom. "I will do it," Ethan said without hesitation. The Queen smiled, a hint of approval in her eyes. "Very well. But be warned, the heart of my kingdom is not a place for the faint of heart. You must be prepared to face whatever lies beyond that door." Ethan took a deep breath, steeling himself for the final challenge. He approached the door, his heart pounding with anticipation. As he pushed it open, he was greeted by a blinding light, and he stepped through, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The light faded, and Ethan found himself standing in a vast, otherworldly landscape. The sky was a swirling mass of colors, with stars twinkling in the distance. The ground beneath his feet was made of a crystalline material, reflecting the light in a dazzling array of colors. In the center of the landscape was a massive tower, reaching up into the sky like a beacon. Ethan knew that the Star of Ether was inside the tower, and he began to make his way towards it. As he walked, he noticed that the landscape was not as empty as it first appeared. Strange, ethereal creatures floated in the air, their forms shifting and changing with every movement. They seemed to be watching him, their eyes filled with curiosity. As he approached the tower, the creatures began to gather around him, forming a barrier between him and the entrance. Ethan hesitated, unsure of how to proceed. He didn't want to harm the creatures, but he also couldn't afford to be delayed. One of the creatures, larger than the others, floated forward, its eyes locking onto Ethan's. It spoke in a soft, melodic voice. "Why have you come here, mortal?" Ethan took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. "I have come to retrieve the Star of Ether. It is the final test set before me by the Forgotten Queen." The creature studied him for a moment, then nodded. "The Star of Ether is a powerful relic, not to be taken lightly. If you wish to claim it, you must prove your worth." Ethan nodded, ready for whatever challenge lay ahead. "What must I do?" The creature gestured to the tower. The Star of Ether is guarded by a series of trials, each one designed to test a different aspect of your being. You must pass each trial to reach the relic. Ethan took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenges ahead. He entered the tower, the creatures parting to let him through. The interior of the tower was just as otherworldly as the landscape outside, with walls that seemed to shift and change with every step. The first trial was a test of strength. Ethan found himself in a room filled with massive boulders, each one blocking his path. He had to move the boulders to progress, but they were incredibly heavy. Using all his strength, he managed to push them aside, one by one, until he reached the end of the room. The second trial was a test of intellect. Ethan was presented with a series of complex puzzles, each one more difficult than the last. He had to use his knowledge and problem-solving skills to solve them, and after much effort, he succeeded. The third trial was a test of courage. Ethan was faced with a series of illusions, each one designed to play on his deepest fears. He had to confront each fear head-on, refusing to be intimidated. With each fear he overcame, he grew more confident in his abilities. Finally, after passing all the trials, Ethan reached the top of the tower. The star of ether was there, floating in the center of the room, radiating a powerful, otherworldly energy. Ethan approached it cautiously, feeling the weight of its power. As he reached out to take the star, a voice echoed through the room. "You have proven yourself worthy, Ethan Drake. The star of ether is yours to claim." Ethan took the star, feeling its power surge through him. He knew that he had accomplished something incredible, something that would change his life forever. With the star in hand, he made his way back to the Queen, ready to face whatever came next. Ethan returned to civilization, the star of ether safely hidden away. He knew that the knowledge he had gained was too powerful to be shared lightly, and he would need to be careful in how he used it. But he also knew that he had a responsibility to use it for the good of all. He spent the next few years studying the star, unlocking its secrets and learning how to harness its power. He used his newfound knowledge to help those in need, using the star's energy to heal the sick, protect the innocent, and bring peace to war-torn lands. But as he grew more powerful, he also became more aware of the dangers that came with such power. There were those who sought to take the star for themselves, to use its power for their own selfish gain. Ethan knew that he would have to be vigilant, to protect the star from those who would misuse it. One day, as he was meditating on the star, he felt a familiar presence. He opened his eyes to see the forgotten Queen standing before him, her form glowing with a soft, ethereal light. "Ethan Drake," she said, her voice filled with pride. "You have done well. The knowledge of the star is safe in your hands." Ethan bowed his head respectfully. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I have done my best to honor your trust." The Queen nodded. "I know you have. But your journey is not yet over. There is still much for you to do, many challenges to face. But I have no doubt that you will succeed." Ethan felt a sense of determination wash over him. "I will do my best, Your Majesty. I will continue to use the star's power for the good of all." The Queen smiled, a hint of sadness in her eyes. "I know you will. But remember, the power of the star is not just a gift, it is a responsibility. You must always be mindful of the consequences of your actions." Ethan nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "I will, Your Majesty. I will always remember the lessons you have taught me." The Queen's form began to fade, her light dissolving into the air. "Farewell, Ethan Drake. May the stars guide you on your journey." As the Queen disappeared, Ethan felt a sense of peace wash over him. He knew that he had been given a great gift, and he was determined to use it wisely. He would continue to protect the star, to use its power for the good of all, and to honor the memory of the forgotten Queen. With a renewed sense of purpose, Ethan set out on his journey, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. He knew that the road would not be easy, but he was ready for whatever came his way. The star of ether glowed brightly in his hand, a symbol of the power and responsibility he now carried. And as he walked into the horizon, the stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, guiding him on his path. The journey of Ethan Drake was far from over, but he was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that he had the power of the stars at his side. Ethan returned to the Queen's chamber, the star of ether glowing brightly in his hand. The Queen was waiting for him, her expression unreadable. She nodded approvingly as he approached. "You have done well, Ethan Drake," she said. "You have proven yourself worthy of the star of ether, and in doing so, you have proven yourself worthy of my knowledge." Ethan bowed his head respectfully. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I am honored." The Queen gestured for him to sit, and he did so, placing the star of ether on the ground between them. The Queen began to speak, her voice filled with wisdom and power. "The star of ether is a relic of immense power, but it is also a symbol of the connection between our world and the stars. It holds the knowledge of the ancients, the secrets of the universe itself. With it, you can unlock the mysteries of the cosmos." Ethan listened intently, his mind racing with the possibilities. "What must I do to unlock its power? The queen smiled. The power of the star is not something that can be unlocked through force or will alone. It requires understanding, patience, and a deep connection to the universe. You must meditate on the star, allowing its energy to flow through you. Only then will you be able to access its knowledge. Ethan nodded, understanding the gravity of what she was saying. He closed his eyes, focusing on the star of ether. He felt its energy pulsing through him, filling him with a sense of peace and clarity. As he meditated, images began to appear in his mind, visions of distant galaxies, ancient civilizations, and the secrets of the universe. The queen watched him, her expression filled with pride. "You are truly worthy, Ethan Drake. The knowledge of the star is now yours to wield." Ethan opened his eyes, feeling a newfound sense of purpose. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will use this knowledge wisely." The queen nodded. "I have no doubt that you will. But remember, with great power comes great responsibility. The knowledge you now possess must be used for the good of all, not just for yourself." Ethan nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "I will do my best to honor your trust." The queen smiled, a hint of sadness in her eyes. "Our time together is coming to an end, Ethan Drake. I must return to my slumber, but I will always be with you in spirit." Ethan felt a pang of sadness at the thought of leaving her. "Is there no other way? Must you return to your slumber?" The queen nodded. "My time in this world has passed. I must return to the stars, to await the day when I am needed once more. But you, Ethan Drake, have a great destiny ahead of you. Go forth and fulfill it." With that, the queen began to fade, her form dissolving into a soft, glowing light. Ethan watched as she disappeared, feeling a sense of loss but also a sense of hope. He knew that he had been given a great gift, and he was determined to use it wisely. As the queen's light faded, the chamber began to collapse around him. Ethan grabbed the star of ether and ran, making his way back through the labyrinth and out of the tomb. As he emerged into the desert, the tomb collapsed behind him, burying the secrets of the forgotten queen once more. Ethan stood there for a moment, the star of ether glowing in his hand. He knew that his life would never be the same, but he was ready for whatever lay ahead.